Welcome to the first service of Sunday. This is our meditation service, and right now I'm going to be doing a chant, and it's going to be Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. If you have trouble sleeping, it would be really good to do this before you go to sleep. If you're starting to forget words, that happens to almost everybody. It starts to get your mental back into centering. Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. And it's so primal that its impact on our psyche is like splitting an atom. The power of this mantra comes from the fact that it rearranges the subconscious mind at the most elementary level. It has the power to break habits and addictions because it accesses the level of the mind where habits are created. So, Sa is the beginning, Ta is life, Na is change, Ma is rebirth, regeneration. So, and it also helps heal. Sa, Ta, Na, Ma. 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 Sa, Ta, Na, Ma.
No. can be the most valuable if, in fact, there's an opening in our awareness and allowing there to be a rest of the intellect. For it is from spirit rising that we will glean the truth that makes us free. And it is only from spirit rising that we can glean the truth that makes us free. So, can we have this first PowerPoint up? In Matthew 13, verses 45 and 46, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it. The kingdom of heaven, the consciousness divine, can be understood from a spiritual perspective as a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it. The merchant, of course, is each one of us. In search of fine pearls, each one of us is in life searching for the finest possible experiences that will make us happy, make us free, bring us peace and wholeness of some kind. And as we go through that, we've gathered some good experiences. Along the way, we've had some good experiences. But they lose their desirability to some degree as we live on. And so we're always attempting to find something new, something better, something greater, something more fulfilling. But everything that can be found in the world outside of us loses its luster at some place, at some point in time. And for many people, they cling desperately into their senior years even. But those senior years finally will take away all that might have been gained from those experiences in the world. Even that knowledge we thought we might have gained. The only knowledge is that we had to keep moving. But then, at some point, when we despair of finding what it is we are seeking in the world, we come upon something possible that is not in the world and of the world. There's something changes for us. And as I said, for many, they even cling desperately in their senior years. But for some, it's before that the realization that life in the world cannot provide the fulfillment, the peace of mind, the freedom from the fears of the world and the fear of death, cannot provide that. But at some place for some, that point of realization comes through ultimate desperation. And for others it comes through in different ways, but usually it comes through a failure of life in the world to provide a new experience, another experience that will replace those that have lost their luster. And when that failure comes, we start a spiritual journey. We start to seek something beyond the thinking of the world, beyond the seeming treasures and pleasures of the world. So we seek spiritually, and this is the merchant in search of fine pearls at some point. He finds a pearl of inestimable value. That's really what it says. The writers didn't take the time to write that because most people would have tripped over the word inestimable value. They put great value. We're talking about the most magnificent thing that can ever come into our experience. How would you value that? So, the merchant in search of fine pearls comes upon one of inestimable value. You should know this about pearls as well. Genuine pearls, their value is measured by 4 elements: the size of it, the shape of it, the color of it, and the luster of it. And right off the bat, we would think that the others, all these coming together, would determine the value of the pearl. But the most valuable thing, even though you might have thought it would be the size or shape or color, is the luster. Every pearl has its own luster. And it's determined, I guess, by the mollusk or the creature that has it within itself. That oyster, or is it a clam, that secretes this material that ultimately becomes the pearl. But something we need to know about pearls, which I found from a jeweler, a very person that dealt with valuable jewels. He said, if we know that customers are coming in to look at pearl necklaces, we have to take the necklaces out of the case and put them on our sales girl, because they lose their luster in the case and they have to be worn. There's something about the oils or the energy or the metabolism of the physical body that returns their sheen, their luster. And so it's an interesting idea. You know, pearls, when they lose their luster, most people have them cleaned. You have to have them cleaned. But it is said by this jeweler that even the cleanings aren't as valuable as having them worn for a couple of hours before you would display them for sale. So the pearls lose their luster, just as the experiences of life lose their luster. And while we may try to keep them going in our experience, and many people do, you know, you talk about athletes that are skiers and they win a medal, but then they can't stop trying to win again, and they never win again. Even when they leave skiing, they just don't know what to do with themselves. They become despondent. But I'm talking about life's luster in the world plays out. No longer can fulfill us, cannot enliven us. And it happens quite often in times of despair. When we read about Eckhart Tolle's experience, it's really an amazing experience. He was going to a university. He was a brilliant guy, studying. I think he was majoring in psychology, I'm not sure. But he hated himself, and he didn't know why. He hated his life. Perhaps he was looking out at the world the way we do. When we do that sometimes, we let ourselves just look out at the world, and we see the astronomical amounts of different suffering that are taking place in the physical world. And that can bring you despair. But anyway, Eckhart Tolle just hated his life completely. And he went to bed one night in absolute despair, not knowing what he would ever do, not thinking to himself, what would one more psychologist in a world of madness, man's inhumanity to man, man's unthinking, inconsiderate actions and thoughts to his fellow person. What could one more psychologist do in this madness? And he went into this depth of despair and slept for a little while. And very early in the morning, when he woke up, he heard a bird chirping outside his window. And he knew there was nothing he could do. There was that element still there. It was heartening to know that maybe birds themselves do not suffer as grievously as humans. But whatever it was, he gave it all up. His life as a, scholar or pursuing some, psychological place in the world, he gave it all up. It was over for him. And he would go quite often to the park and walk and sit on a bench and just feed pigeons. But slowly but surely, by the beautiful, magnificent plan of the living God, it rose within him. There was something he could do. And that was the beginning of one of the greatest spiritual books ever written, The Power of Now. But we're not talking about pearls. We're talking about the symbology of pearls and the greatest of all pearls. And we're talking about life's experiences. And they are going to lose their luster at some point, regardless of what we may do. I mean, there's many things people are attempting all over the place with, certain kinds of drug therapies and, vitamins and facelifts and whatever. At some point, it will occur to us that the world fails to bring about what the depth of our soul was really seeking. And then we start that spiritual journey, and on that journey we come into a movement in awareness from the strong intellectual perspective that I see life the way it is, to that place that I may not even see life the way it is. I am not capable of discerning what would actually bring healing or peace or happiness to anyone, including myself. I have momentary times when there's a cessation of confusion and despair. But then it's all there again. And for some people, they try to drug or drink their way out of it. Can't be done either, but it's an attempt. But then when we come upon the pearl of inestimable value, you will know that it is peace. It is not the peace that the world offers, a fleeting peace, momentary, relaxing perhaps, or ceasing moments where we don't have depression or fear or anxiety. It's not that peace. It is mystical peace, which is best defined as mystical joy peace. It is the peace that the Master says surpasses the understanding of everything that still lives for the world. You have to stop living for the world for there to be this experience, which is sometimes referred to as the grace of God. To have this joy peace rise in your awareness and know without a shadow of a doubt it is the most valuable, beautiful, magnificent thing that can happen in any human life. It is the pearl of greatest value. And so, knowing that allows us to live beyond the thinking of the world. Allows us to be in the world, but not of the world. Today, the anxiety is phenomenal. The fear is phenomenal because we're going through this coronavirus, this ongoing coronavirus, along with the idea of this upcoming election. And people are all anxious about it. And the significance of it is absolutely meaningless in every possible way except that it might drive you toward the spiritual inner journey, might bring you the opportunity, or it might actually become so concerning that you can't handle it anymore and you'll just turn away from it. You'll turn off your television, and for the time you would have spent listening to the news, you spend being quiet and searching the presence of the living God that has never left you, ever, can't, possibly. There are those who will go to their deathbed clinging to the possibility that they just happen to miss it in the world. I've been with them on their deathbeds. Just happened to miss it in the world. And of course, there'll be other opportunities because we can't even begin to imagine how benevolent the Creator is to have given us this, in which we can live and reflect upon our thoughts and actions and make whatever changes are necessary along the way to finally discover we do not have the ability to judge anything. And so when we give that up, there's this rising of spiritual consideration, forgiveness, peace, joy. So I want to share this with you from A Course in Miracles because it holds the truth that we need to really grasp, and I mean grasp from the deepest level beyond the intellect. You intellectually can go into something, but at a certain point, it needs to be left behind. The wholeness of God, which is His peace, cannot be appreciated except by a whole mind that recognizes the wholeness of God's creation. That is, there is nothing that one can look upon that is not God. By this recognition, it knows its creator. Exclusion and separation are synonymous, as are separation and dissociation. We have said before that the separation was and is dissociation, and that once it occurs, projection becomes its main defense, or the device that keeps it going. The fall of man is the birth of man in the world in which his understanding, his mind, is conditioned to the idea of being a physical, personal body self. In a world of what seems to be separate other physical body selves. That's his fall. And then he goes through life, she goes through life, attempting to gather those things that might bring fulfillment, peace, understanding, insight. And we have moments where we've collected some fine pearls along the way, but they will not be enough. Because you are not strictly a physical body-mind in a world of separate physical others. Each of us is a divine extension of the living, present God. And until we come into that consciousness, we will not know what it means to be truly alive. To be truly alive is to be without fear, without consternation, without judgment even. Look at that. To be able to say, I don't know anything really of what would bring about healing or peace. But there is one that does. And that is our Creator. The wholeness of God, which is His peace, that is the understanding that we move from the illusion of separation and personality into more and more an awareness of oneness with everything that lives. All of religion may help in certain ways for people who are locked into limited awarenesses and spaces where they're clinging and don't know how to let go because they don't know how to be selflessly kind. They don't know how to be selflessly kind. So everything that rises within them is in limitation because it's in separation. There's all these things outside of me that are not caring about me. Without the revelation that it is you who are not caring about them. Because this is a world of sowing and reaping for the express purpose of us awakening. Did we ever get, Heather, did we ever get the pearl up here? Yes. Look at that, I am so totally into what I'm doing. You know what it is? You have 3 espressos like I do before I come out. No, that's okay. That's okay. I think I've done the pearl. This is who we really are. It's a beautiful painting by Vladimir Kush, a Russian painter. And so we come to this understanding. Take this with you, if you will. You will think about some of what I've said here. But it comes in the application, putting your life to the task of changing the priority to the spiritual practice. Because in the spiritual practice, there is finally the discovery, it takes a while, let me say, of this mystical peace, which comes by virtue of the awakening of the divinity that has always been there within you. The awakening of what the Course in Miracles refers to as the Holy Spirit, but it's probably better understood as the holy awareness. An awareness without prejudice, without judgment, without fear, without consternation, without concern, without anxiety. An awareness that all will ultimately be all right when we let it be all right. What? Everything. If you want to be an emissary of healing, learn to let whatever appears to you as wrong and unjust, etc., let it be all right in the understanding that it is also teaching someone something. And if you are guided, which you may be, to do something, to alleviate some injustice on your path, please don't hold back. Do that. But do it in the awareness that what you are guided to do has outcomes that are out of your control. And someday your guidance will be so clear and so pure and so beautiful that you will have no goals. You will aspire to nothing. Accept. Serving the moment just as it comes to you. There's the oneness. The goals, the dreams, the aspirations, the seeking, the driving, the grasping, the wanting, all in terms of separation, until you say, well, how could someone just live in the moment in a state of allowing? Just allowing. Being present. Allowing. But then knowing everything that appears upon your path is there by divine appointment to be blessed, to be considered, to be helped, to be one. We're going to have a beautiful bowl here, which will be played by a lady with one working arm. And she's never played this with her left hand, so we're going to forgive her. Don't laugh for her. I have now been reduced to cooking, cleaning, doing the laundry. All right? All the things I have avoided so totally and completely. Now they're all...
I've never been a queen.
Yes, you are. You really are a queen. Okay. We are going to just rest in the beautiful energy that is going to come from this bowl. And then following this bowl, we're going to have a meditation together that's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be like a Zen contemplation. So... This is a deck of cards. They're all shuffled and mixed right now, but I put two on the top. The King of Diamonds, the Queen of Diamonds. When we're born into the world, as we become adults, most of us see ourselves as special as the King of Diamonds in this deck. King of Diamonds in this deck of cards that run from 2 to the ace is pretty special. And of course for women, the Queen of Diamonds is as well. Pretty special in this deck. And that's the level of awareness that we live in as we grow up in the world. It's kind of egotistical, but it is true that we perceive ourselves as having a particular self-interest that is really usually more important than anybody else's. Sometimes when we have children, that diminishes a little, but for the most part, this idea of being the king in the entire deck, or the queen, is pretty substantial in our awareness. Now, if I threw the cards up in the air, way up in the air, and let them come down, the king and queen would be in the midst of them. And maybe the king and queen would be trying to figure out, as cards were flowing all around them, how to figure it out, how to make a good hand out of all these different cards that are going by so quickly, so fast, and changing. Now imagine not just one deck of cards, but cards flowing down all over the world. It's raining cards of all different denominations. And they are, some of them, changing as they're coming down. And here you are in the midst of all that, thinking that somehow or other you can make sense of it. You can figure it out. Maybe as those cars passing by, maybe you could somehow get connected with a few, and you could make something even more meaningful happen, but you don't know. It's just happening so fast. And the rain just keeps coming, and the wind is blowing. Cars are going this way and that way. And yet you still cling to this idea that you could judge and figure it out. Because along the way, you'd want to figure out how you could wind up with the best possible hand. But it wouldn't be very long. I mean, how long do you have to live and be awake in the living to recognize you can't figure it all out? How would you ever get that straight flush or that royal flush? The 10 to the ace of the same suit. But here it is, the cards just keep flowing, and they're all different suits, all different colors. And you have concerns at first about some of the colors. You may have grown out of that. Some people haven't. But they just keep flowing. And you suppose at some point I can just do what I can where I am to pursue my personal interests and try to figure out the best I can as I go along the way. But then it's been so long, and it's happening so often, and there's so many cards, and the wind just keeps blowing, and the cards just keep falling, and ultimately we must come to the realization, I have no control whatsoever. Billions of cards everywhere, thinking in their own way, changing their suits, their numbers as they go. I have no control whatsoever. And at some point you say, listen to it, please. I can only accept and flow with everything as it is, not having a clue as to what I can do to make it work the best for me. So this self-interest thing kind of diminishes, and then you become willing to deal with those cards that are flowing around you. Some of them may be calling out to you, and you say, all I can do is be as considerate of their dilemma as I can, because it is also my dilemma. We're all just being blown this way and that way, tossed to and fro. I guess it's just going to be that way. And I can only be as kind as I can possibly be, not knowing anything else to do. And then it comes to mind that it's chaos, really. But as you get closer into this piece of flowing with the moment, just as it is, just as it presents itself to you, just be willing to flow with it, go with it, and do the best you can to make of it a harmonious experience in whatever way you can. Not to bemoan it or fear it or curse it because it didn't go according to what you wanted. You let it go. You're just in it. It's there. You're there. It's all just happening. And so you accept Tolle's principle that everything only happens in your particular now, where you are. And so you say, flow with the good, the bad, the indifferent, the just, the unjust. The Bible says the same thing. You must be as open and flowing as your Father in heaven, letting his sun to shine on the good and the evil alike, letting his rain to fall on the good and the evil alike, the just and the unjust alike. You must go there to be in the moment. And then, as you allow that and know the peace that comes from absolutely allowing, and the joy and the freedom that comes with that consciousness is so beautiful, it will make you cry often. And as you embrace that peace, you begin to recognize that as all these cards hit the ground, they hit in order from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to the king of spades, of diamonds, of hearts. All these flowing, seeming cards that seem to have no particular direction, all land, all resolve in that perfect pattern. Because, and this is our meditation, there is only God. Let's take some time to just allow that to be our meditation. Very well. You don't have to just do that here. that can become a guiding mantra as you go about everything you do. And then everything you do will become a meditation. There's not going to be any follow-up video as I usually do, because I'd like you to leave in this place of divine peace, not having any more to think about the will of God. Is always.
You can chant with us if you know this is a Yogananda chant, absolutely fitting with this service. Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control. Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control. Enter not the house of senses. Enter not the house of senses. Learn thou self-control. Learn thou self-control. Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control. Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control. Enter not the house of senses. Enter not the house of senses. Learn thou self-control. Learn thou self-control.
We'll take an offering for unity now. In our new way of taking an offering, whatever it is you can give to help support this ministry, just bring that to mind. Or if you want to, if you're going to make a physical offering, we have a basket in the lobby. As you leave, you can put that physical offering in there. Or we have the credit card dip jars. You can dip your credit card, and we have every other way to give right here. If this works for you, you can choose one of these. Those online can also choose one of those. This physical building and everything that goes with it, the maintenance and the people that operate within it, and all that goes on, is still in the world. And so it survives by virtue of being paid for, bills paid. And so it's very appreciated that you will make an offering to Unity of Boulder. So as we take our offerings in our hands, let's bless them with this offering statement. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. I'll say that again. If you want to say it within your heart, you can say it within your heart with me. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. Amen.
Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control. Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control. Enter not the house of senses. Enter not the house of senses. Learn thou self-control. Learn thou self-control. Oh, my mind, learn thou self-control.
I'll stop out on the front steps
Oh,
for any
my mind,
discussion you may want to have. If you want to stick around a minute or two, I'll be out there. Thank you for showing up.